Today is November 9th, 2015, and here's another story over on The Mirror. And this is my Mr. Right turned out to be a love rat who conned me out of $10,000, but I got my revenge. Single mom Chloe Sullivan was smitten when Craig Johnson showered her with gifts, but in reality, she was the one paying for everything. By Emma Petrus. Let's dig into this. As Chloe Sullivan unwrapped gifts from her boyfriend, a coat, boots, jewelry, and Marc Jacobs perfume, she was sure she had finally met her ideal partner. The single mother of two had been dating Craig for only a few months, but he always seemed to be spoiling her and her children, making sure that she had the little luxuries she could not afford. But in reality, he was not being as generous as she was led to believe. In fact, she was the one paying for everything. Craig, who goes by the surnames of Davies and Johnson, had been using her bank details, not least to set up credit in her name. What's more, her Mr. Right had been featured on BBC's Crime Watch, wanted in connection with fraud offenses. And there's a video with a picture of him. Moving on here. Chloe, 24, believed he could have conned her out of $10,000, and she was determined to take revenge. So she went about luring him with a fake dating profile on the site where they had met. The romantic rendezvous he was expecting turned out to be a date with the police and jail. This was a far cry from when the couple had first started chatting in July last year on the dating site Plenty of Fish. Chloe from Barrow in Furness, Cumbria, recalls, Craig told me he had just moved to the area from London for work. He said he was an insurance broker. I wasn't really looking for a boyfriend, just someone to talk to. The part-time postwoman who has a 5-year-old daughter and a 2-month-old son, having split up with her ex when she was pregnant, says, we texted every day and he kept asking if we could meet. A month later, Chloe agreed. He popped around for a coffee when the kids weren't in, she said. He was even more handsome in the flesh than in his picture. We talked about everything and he seemed completely different to anyone I'd met before. He told me he had an epileptic fit on the train up, and when he came around, all his stuff had gone. I felt sorry for him. The couple started dating, and when they were out in October last year, Craig asked Chloe for a favor. He told me he needed a phone after being robbed that day on the train, but he was still waiting on getting new ID and wasn't able to get a contract without it, she says. He told me he would give me the money in cash and transfer the phone into his name as soon as his ID came through. And here's a copy of his profile. Looks like a Plenty of Fish profile. Chloe agreed. She thought nothing of it. She was smitten. She says, I introduced him to the kids and they thought he was great. He was always offering to help with them. My family and friends, everyone thought he was fantastic. He showered me with the kids. He showered me and the kids with presents. He was a real Prince Charming. Yeah, I bet. I couldn't believe my luck when he started talking about wanting to settle down in marriage. He would say things like, I would never hurt you. I'd love to have a child with you one day. They spent Christmas together. It was so nice being a little family, says Chloe. But a month later, her bubble bursts. She noticed that her bank balance was higher than it should have been. When she checked, a lump sum from a loan company had been deposited into her account, and the lender had started taking payments from her. When she confronted Craig, he admitted he had set up a $1,500 loan, or pounds, this is British pounds. I was furious with him and demanded to know what was going on, she says. He told me he was still waiting for his bank card, so he had got it deposited into my account, but was trying to get it changed. I was shouting at him, saying he had to do it. But when that didn't happen, Chloe threatened to go to the police, and that was the last she saw of him. She says, he just disappeared. He wasn't answering my calls or texts. I didn't know what to do. The loans company was still taking money out of my account. I didn't even know if the police could help, as we had been in a relationship. I had been naive. I felt ashamed. One day I burst into tears and told my mom everything. She convinced Chloe to report Craig to the police, and while they were investigating, she discovered a flute and a digital camera were missing from her home. She also found a pile of statements from online catalogs stuffed at the back of her wardrobe. They were all in my name, she says. I felt sick and burst into tears. Worried, she decided to find out what else Craig had set up in her name. I cracked the passwords to his email account and found he had been talking to other women online while we were together, she says. And here's another picture. Scrolling past that. Then came a bigger blow. She discovered Craig had also received a 10-month jail sentence in Newcastle Crown Court in August 2013. He was convicted under the name Craig Johnson of one charge of theft, 4 of dishonest representation, and 1 of receiving stolen goods, but he was released due to time served on remand. Chloe discovered he had fleeced his 3 victims out of thousands of pounds. 2 of them had been girlfriends. An acquaintance then told Chloe that Craig's picture had been seen on Crime Watch in January this year because he was wanted for fraud offenses under the name Johnson. Chloe decided to bring him to justice. She says the police didn't seem to be getting anywhere, so my brother and I came up with a plan. After finding Craig on Plenty of Fish, they set up a fake profile for Jade. And there's some blurred out pictures of the fake profile. Going by the women he had been speaking to, Craig had a type, young single moms like me. So that's what we said Jade was. Craig's profile said he lived in Wrexham. So we put that down as Jade's location. Jade sent Craig a message and they arranged to meet in a pub in Wrexham in February. Chloe adds, I called the police and told him where they could find Craig. I was nervous he might suspect something. It was such a relief when they called to say he'd been arrested. Craig pleaded guilty in May at Lewes Crown Court, Sussex, to 5 fraud charges related to Chloe. His offenses included applying for a loan with 118, opening lines of credit at Next and Giacomo in Chloe's name without her knowledge, telling her mobile contracts he signed up for in her name were free when they were not, and taking a flute and camera to pawn. He also admitted 9 other fraud and theft counts and was jailed for 2 years. While the actual money Chloe lost was a lot less, Chloe claims that the total amount of credit taken out in her name could have reached as high as £10,000, especially with interest on her repayments. Looking back, I feel so stupid, but I wasn't the only one taken in by his charm, she says. He was so sly about it all. He had a lie for everything. With the help of the police, Chloe has now managed to get a loan companies to wipe out the debt. But she says he knows it was me that set him up, but I'm not scared. I'm done with men now and want to share my story to warn other women never to be fooled by this baby-faced love rat. Well, like everything, I will tell you, you got to be careful about people who have a lie for everything. They're always practicing, always conniving, always ready to respond with the right answer. And, if you're a single mom out there, you definitely got to be careful because there's guys that go looking for single moms knowing that, hey, you guys are hard up. You're not exactly on the top of everyone's list, and you might be desperate for a little attention and affection. So keep your guard up, and you can learn from stories like this. The link for this will be down in the show more section below. And as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and share your thoughts. That's going to do it for this story. September Man out.